like presentation. And then,
2, 3. Is Mary Collins here? I was gonna ask her. She's on she
Actually.
Right.
Okay.
What do you think?
How did you put your makeup in? I'm not. Hey, Roger.
Yes,
Can you do the land acknowledgement?
I can.
You want to?
One moment. Yes, I do. Are you doing now?
Do we have? Kristen's here.
Jumping ahead with all the meetings.
Oh, I know. I was wondering if we have enough people. Okay. We got online. All right, well, welcome everybody. It's really fun to see such a full room of faces and not just the faces on the screen. We will go ahead and call the September meeting of the Flagstaff Sustainability Commission to order. So first order of business, we'll do roll call. Chair Amy Wolkowitsky, I am here. Vice Chair Mary Metzger is on her way. Kevin Johnson.
There she is.
Kevin Johnson. Elijah Bourne.
Right here.
Awesome.
I'll call you back.
Hello, Elijah.
Hello.
Cameron Carlson.
You might be jumping on late.
Okay. Commissioner Conkle. Commissioner Tom Lammy.
Here.
And Commissioner Roger Spurlock.
Here.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. Commissioner Conkle, will you please, or I'm sorry, Spurlock, will you please give us your land acknowledgement?
I will, yes, gladly. The Sustainability Commission humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home.
Thank you. Next up, we have public comment. At this time, any member of the public may address the commission on any subject within their jurisdiction that is not scheduled for the commission today. Due to open meeting laws, the commission cannot discuss or act on items presented during this portion of the agenda. To address the commission on an item that is on the agenda, please use the Teams chat function. Simply type in public comment to indicate that you would like to comment. We'll then recognize you when it's time for public comment. Is there anybody here that has comments that are not on the agenda today? Yes, Al White. Thank you for joining us. And just 3-minute limit, please.
Okay, so I guess that's what I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
3 minutes is prescribed as a way to keep it short, sweet, and have people get to the point. But and I saw a note back to Ward saying that his presentation was going to take up most of his 3 minutes. I just want to remind you all that all you have to do if you want more time out of a particular participant is ask a question. You ask a question, the person can answer that question, and you can have that kind of a dialogue. You can't act, that's true, that the open meeting law does preclude that, but you certainly don't have to stop somebody at 3 minutes if you want to hear more of what they have to say. In general, I'm here to support recycling, and I just want you to know that I think it's very, very important. And I had a bid in on that recycling some 25 years ago, came in second, but have a very vested interest in seeing us maximize all of the returns we can get from recycling and keeping that program alive and well. And I wanted to say that in Scotty's present, that Evan did a great job, and we miss him. That's it for me.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ward's gonna speak later.
Yeah.
On the agenda. Okay. Thank you. Next is a review of the August minutes. Do we have a motion to approve the August minutes?
I'd like to motion to approve.
Second.
Excellent. You. Right, and now we will hear from Genevieve. Is she online? Yes. Hi, Genevieve. Genevieve Pear 3 is from the Division of Sustainability, is going to talk to us about the upcoming regional plan public review period. Thanks, Genevieve.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Wolkowinski. I'm the only person online. I feel bad not coming in person. I'll be around next time. So sorry to be a floating head, but I won't take too much of your time. I just wanted to share about the upcoming regional plan 2045 public review, as well as there's going to be, I believe the next Sustainability Commission meeting is going to be solely focused on the regional plan. So I just want to give everyone a heads up, just so that it's a big thing, and just to kind of prime the pump a little bit and see if I can give some information now that will be helpful. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and we can go from there. Okay, make sure it, whoopsies. Whoops, wrong one. Hold on. Let me rotate this just a minute. I'm going to turn my camera off while I'm presenting. Okay, there we go. All right, so thanks again for having me. And here we go. So just a little bit about the regional plan. I know I talked about this maybe 6 months ago. It's really, really important. The city has a lot of planning documents that we use to guide our policies and code and implementation. The regional plan is really, really important. It interacts with a lot of different plans. Sustainability is present through all of these plans in this pyramid. This actually comes from the existing regional plan, the 2020-30 plan that we have in place right now. So basically, this document's really important, which is why I want to just make sure everyone kind of has a bit of understanding of it, as well as what's coming up. So it's a regional plan because it basically addresses the Flagstaff region. So the city of Flagstaff, as well as kind of the larger metropolitan planning area. So it's basically our general plan. It has to be ratified by voters every 10 years. And it supports land use decisions, policymaking, our 100-year water supply designation, transportation planning, many other efforts, including sustainability. And it's actually a joint city and county plan that, again, doesn't cover the whole county. It just covers the Flagstaff metropolitan area and the part of the county outside the city limits that's part of that area. So it's basically an amendment to the county comprehensive plan. So it is also adopted by the Board of Supervisors, in addition to being voted on by Flagstaff residents. So this is the land use plan from the existing plan. So it basically shows like where different type of development could go. So we're in the process of updating that. So this is a fairly long, years-long process. We're in phase 3 right now, and this is being led by comprehensive planning within community development at the city of Flagstaff. But all cities, lots of city staff is involved, so that's why I'm here today. So we're basically on phase 3. So there is a draft plan that's only recently come together. It's been created by staff with advice from a regional plan advisory committee. So there's about to be a 60-day public review, which is a really important time to provide comments. So the plan is not finalized. I want to make sure that's clear. There's plenty of time for edits and comments, but we do have a full draft that will be ready to go out for review in about a month. So that's what I want to highlight here, is just keep an eye out and kind of what you can do in between now and then to be prepared and what you can do when that draft does come out. So as I mentioned, we're in phase 3. Phase 4 is once the regional plan draft is basically finalized. It would go to council for adoption, then it would be voted on by voters in, I believe, November of next year, and then it would go for county adoption by the Board of Supervisors. So again, pretty big deal document, and now is a great time to provide comments. So just a little bit of an overview of what's in there right now, and again, it's a draft. These are the list of priorities that came out of community feedback through these 2 previous phases I mentioned, phase 1 and 2. So that's where that stuff came out of. So these are some of the priorities, and IT will be sending this out afterwards so you can take a look at it. But that's just kind of an overview of what's in there now. And then there's 23 goals and 84 policies across 11 chapters that are also supported by implementation guidelines and action items that staff can use to make progress on those goals and policies. So this is a list of the chapters. So you can see there's a lot of different things in it. I think the plan is somewhat under 200 pages, maybe between 150 and 200. I don't remember the exact amount. So anyway, so it covers a lot of topics. So just kind of heads up on that. And sustainability stuff shows up throughout. So we will be talking about that a lot more in the next Sustainability Commission meeting, but just a heads up today for kind of what to expect when you do take a look at that plan. And then, yeah, really big, really important part of the process. So the 60-day public review is going to start on October 20th and goes to December 19th. So this is an opportunity for the Flagstaff community to review and comment on the plan. There will be an online version that will allow commenters to see and respond to each other's comments, but then hard copies will also be available in City Hall and in the libraries. And then once that review is over, staff will compile all the comments and basically create documentation to say like how were the comments addressed, and then revise the plan based on community feedback. And then after that, there'll be several meetings for Planning and Zoning Commission, City Council, Board of Supervisors, as well as additional opportunities for public input. And then that's when that council adoption would happen during that time. And then, as I mentioned previously, I believe it's planned to be on the November 2025 ballot for voter approval. So how you can get involved. So the last scheduled regional plan committee meeting is actually this Monday, September 30th at 6 p.m. The purpose of the meeting is for the committee to review and endorse the public draft before it goes out to that 60-day public review. They're also discussing a potential update to the city's urban growth boundary. That's pretty important. And we will be talking about that at the next City Sustainability Commission meeting, excuse me. But that will be discussed at the Regional Plan Committee meeting. So you could join virtually or in person. Obviously, if multiple people wanted to join, we'd have to figure out quorum stuff. But I just want to give you a heads up for anyone who's really interested in kind of finding out where we are right now in the process. Would definitely encourage you to join that meeting. And if you join in person, that's at the Public Works Yard out on West Route 66. And then I mentioned a couple times that the next Sustainability Commission meeting will be focused on the regional plan. Sarah Dechter from Comprehensive Planning will be leading a pretty big presentation about the plan, a little bit more detail about what it is, why it's important, kind of how it's structured, and then where sustainability and climate action show up in the plan. And then Jenny and I will be leading a discussion along with Sarah and anyone else to review sustainability staff comments on the plan, as well as go through the chapters and just kind of give an overview. And that's right at the beginning of the 60-day public review period. So we're hopeful that this will kind of get everyone primed to be able to get a good sense of what's in the plan and how you, what kind of things you can comment on. And would encourage everyone as much as possible to review the draft plan. I know everyone's busy. We have a lot going on. I know in this commission, there's a lot going on. But again, we have from October 20th to December 19th. So that's quite a long time, 2 months to review the plan. I will say I'm unclear. I wish I had the answer today. I've tried to find out, but I don't have a concrete answer right now, but I will have it for next time as to whether the Sustainability Commission would be providing comments as private individuals or as a commission. I know that's something we talked about previously, and I unfortunately don't have confirmation about that, but we will have that information next time. So stay tuned for that. But either way, there will be an opportunity as part of that 60-day review to provide comments. And again, it's not finalized, so I just want to make sure that's clear that there's still time to update it, because now it's going out to the community. I'm sure there'll be lots and lots of comments, and it will be updated in response to those comments. And so a little bit more about getting involved. So during that 60-day review period, there will be 4 workshops that will be focusing on different chapters. I put the dates and the focus areas there. Some of them are, I think the 13th, 14th, and 15th are on the weekdays. So they're in the evening. November 18th, I believe, is a Saturday. So that one is in the morning. So definitely can participate in any or all of those workshops to go in a deep dive on some of these chapters. And then I put the links to the regional plan website here, as well as there's an email list. And then there is a draft posted for the Regional Plan Committee meeting on the 30th. That may or may not be the final draft that goes out to the for the 60-day public review. But if you're really, really excited and want to take a look, I put the link there, and then we'll notify you when it's open for comments starting on October 20th. And I think that's my last slide. Yeah, so anyway, I'm happy to answer any questions or comments. I don't want to take too much of your time, but I just wanted to provide this information just so you have a sense of what's coming up. And note that we'll go into this a lot more detail in the next Sustainability Commission meeting. But if anyone has any clarifying questions or things I can help answer now, I will do my best. So thanks again for having me.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you. So thank you, Genevieve, very much. That's helpful to mentally prepare ourselves for what's coming next month. And we've had conversations about the presentation you're going to give us, and as you acknowledged, it's a huge document. So I'm just hoping that you'll really do a good job of focusing in on the parts that we should be paying attention to, where sustainability is, specifically discussed throughout the plan. So.
Yes, agreed. That is the goal. I think it will be a little bit of an overview, and Sarah will be giving that part of it, and just to kind of clarify, like, what is the plan, what is it not, but also focusing on how sustainability does show up throughout the plan. It is in some chapters more than others, but it is throughout the plan. So yeah, we'll definitely focus on that, and then also be talking about, previous sustainability staff comments that Jenny and Nicole and I and others have made, and kind of going through chapters and kind of show like the kind of comments we've made and just kind of talk that through. So definitely want to focus on, I don't want it to be, it's not going to be everything. It's too big of a plan. So definitely we'll focus on the priority areas for this commission to be focused on. So thanks for that comment.
I'm very interested in comments made by staff that were or were not incorporated into the draft as well.
Yeah, I believe there will be Sarah Dector, the comprehensive planning manager who's leading this process, will be giving us a matrix of comments that will show just comments from sustainability staff and where they were. So I don't have those yet. They're working furiously to get that 60-day draft public review out, kind of up and running. So hopefully soon we'll get those comments and they'll be able to be shared with the commission, ideally prior to the meeting. That's the goal.
Cool. Any questions? All right, well, thank you so much, Genevieve.
Thank you.
We'll look forward to seeing you and your team next month.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have Sam Beckett with Public Works, the Streets Section Director, to talk about recycling in Flagstaff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Stand up if that's all right. So Sam Beckett, I serve as a section director in Public Works. I currently oversee the Streets Department and Solid Waste. I was told that there was potential conversations to be had here about where we are with our recycling program. What does it look like? How do we see that moving forward? And how we can work together to maybe support each other as we work down that path. Is that accurate? I'm going to kind of do a little bit of give and take here as we go. I don't have all the context of what exactly you're looking for. We've talked a little bit about with Steve and with Nicole, but I also kind of want to get feedback here before I go down a rabbit hole of just talking that doesn't get us anywhere. But what are we looking for here? What do we want to talk about? I don't know.
I think one of the first times that I brought up the issue of recycling, it was from the perspective of a really frustrated citizen who, like, I am constantly having arguments in my household about what's recyclable and what's not, and then hearing things about, contaminated recycling bins. And anyway, I know that there are some fundamental improvements or changes that, we could look at and address in the larger system to be more efficient, to be able to recycle more, to do it maybe with fewer emissions. But I also would really like to see more like outreach and education around recycling. And I think as a commission, that's one of the places we can help. But I personally, and I think the commission, as we discussed before, we're interested in just like kind of knowing where things are at right now, what the process is. Do we have other options? And then I think education is, something we can talk about just a little bit.
Yeah.
The public education.
These are all great topics, honestly, a bunch of topics that we've been discussing with sustainability closely.
Are there any other commissioners that would like to expand on that?
I mean, this almost seems trivial, but I just recently became informed enough about recycling that I discovered that my plastic egg cartons that are so great about, they're not recyclable. And I've been putting them in there diligently for years.
Yes, that's exactly what.
And it says #1 for recycling on it right there. Then it says, these cartons are made from 100% recycled plastic already. And they have a little picture of a water bottle going to an egg carton. All this stuff makes you think that why don't the supermarkets take these back and send it to the egg people so they can just reuse them if they can't recycle them? I don't know how to reach out to individual supermarkets now that they're, owned internationally probably, but what is it?
So I think
Just this is just trivial, but it's, there's a lot of these I think it's called what, thermoformed plastics that they look perfect. I mean, how are they different than a water bottle? I don't know.
how can we do better so that we don't have discussions like this? And how can we do better and have the best system for the city, for efficiency, to save money, to do our best to do our part? So
Yeah.
that's the question.
I think these are all great topics. I think they're all very timely too. Part of the conversations we've been having as we work with our public information office, sustainability, all the partners we can to help educate people is trying to understand where we are as a nation right now.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's easy enough to say, why can't we just go do this? We should be able to do this. Certain stuff we can't control. We can't control the industry. I'd love to have more influence there. It's just not there. And as a nation, for whatever reason, we're not investing in that piece. We're not investing in that process of working with the industries. We're producing the product. Until we change that, we're always going to be kind of on the defensive, which we've been dealing with for a long time. The piece that's been the real kicker is, I think we all saw what happened in 2019, right? China cut ties with us and recycling market of the United States. We never really invested back into that as a country. And we talked about it. We looked at what's happening out there. We tried to keep doing what we had always done. And it didn't work because there was nowhere to take the product. There was no market for it. And then people who were a little bit further outside of the hub, it's very much so a hub and spoke kind of an industry. So the hub for us is Phoenix. Further away you get from that till you get to the next big hub, the harder it gets to start figuring out, how do I find market for this product? Well, it's exactly what we saw here. We had an industry provider who provided a service for a long time, and they did well for a very long time. However, with that said, they got to a point where, honestly, market didn't support them. There was some other pieces to that, some management pieces probably could have been done better, but we can't control that. Wasn't our piece to control. Trying to work with them. However that happened, they wound up going out of business a year and a half ago, I think now. Unfortunately, a very untimely fire expedited their exodus out of their contract with us. And so we assumed all recycling, and we were able to get recycling back up and running with only a 7-day gap in service, which I thought was amazing. However, it just looks different now. What the former process was, it would go over to the plant. They would take the product and work it through a series of conveyor belts and try and sort out as much as they could. However, most of it was just getting routed right back to landfills. They would sort out the stuff that had any kind of value cardboards, some certain plastics, mainly plastics like you would see in your laundry detergent. Those bottles still have a ton of value left in them. But that's it. The rest of it was kind of going to the wayside. So the market was dying, their plant was dying, just didn't work out well. So when we took it over, we wound up taking on pretty large liability from a business standpoint. The plant itself has far exceeded its serviceable life. So what we've done is decommissioned everything that would have been tied to the existing plant. There's nothing that was salvageable out of that. There's nothing reusable, nothing from a city standard, which has to meet OSHA standards and everybody else's standards. Private sector, they might be able to get away with certain stuff. As a city, we cannot. We don't have that option. So we recognize quickly it doesn't work. What we've done is strictly gone to a transfer facility. We are not the hub of recycling. We will probably never be the hub as long as I'm working in government because the industry just isn't there for us. We don't see enough product. We don't have the industry to support us. And it's just the hand we were dealt. You know, it's funny when we want our product be delivered to the vendor that we've contracted with in the valley, you know, we're a small fraction of what they take in a day. I mean, what they take in a week is what we bring them in a year. So that's where we recognize, all right, we're probably never going to be the hub. We've even had some conversations with Waste Management just recently. They've also recognized that they're having some issues. That as a recycling facility, as a transfer station for their own product, the private market isn't supporting them like it used to. So they're actually getting into the world of their own transportation, transporting their own product, trying to figure out how do we make it more efficient because they're struggling with it. They came to us for help. Nothing more we can do. Our tipping floor is a limited facility and trying to understand when, you know, the second largest industry leader in the nation at this point, maybe worldwide with Waste Management, is asking us for support. We knew that there was bigger problems. So we're trying to figure out how do we keep it moving. Right now, from a business standpoint, if I was a business owner, this is the probably worst business you could be in right now, from a business practice standpoint. But understanding from a community investment standpoint is a high value. And so as a city government, we also understand we don't do it for the business standpoint. We've got to recognize what our limitations are. So we recognize we have limitations. We're going to work up to those limitations and do our best and make sure the product goes to a location that is the most sustainable, hopefully gets best bang for our buck on the return and investment for recycling, and understanding that there's a piece of it that just nationwide isn't being recycled. So some of the conversations we've been having was, how do we talk to people and educate people on what really is recyclable? Now, we're not going to go out there and change our marketing standpoint. It's just, there's too much flux in the process right now. There's too much fluctuation in what can be this week versus what can't be next week. So I think a big push that we're going to work on is how do we just use less? Honestly, from a business standpoint, from a governmental standpoint, that's our best bet. We have to find a way to educate people on using less. If you can use less, great. If you do have to use it, all right, then where does it go? And that's our big campaign right now is use less when you can. If you do use it, how do we dispose of it properly? That's kind of where we're stuck. I'd love to get out of that reactionary standpoint. We're just not there right now. But if we can find a way out of that, great. Having said that, we're not alone. We've actually been going through the process to try and hire somebody specifically for solid waste in this section director role, and we're hearing it from every candidate that comes across the board. Recycling in particular is just struggling. And it's not because the community isn't invested enough. It isn't because we don't want it enough. It's because as a nation, from a federal standard, we just haven't invested in it. And so we don't have the resources that China had and built over decades. Long before the split in 19, we don't have that. So for us, we're already 20 years behind where we should have been. And that takes a long time to catch up in any kind of industry. So we're kind of hoping that at some point it does start to catch up. We're keeping up with the market. We're trying to meet the needs of the community while educating them at the same time. And we're trying to improve our own business practices. You know, for a solid waste group, fairly small. The entire division or entire section is only 44 staff members. That includes all of our landfill operations. Not a big team when you start taking those 14 out of the mix and then splitting the other 3 into 4 programs, right? Our residential collections, commercial collections, those trucks roll over to do recycling, both groups. We have our specialty collections, big roll-off bins you see in the open top. And then we've got recycling, one of our newest programs as of July, where we have a dedicated supervisor and an operator. We understand that there's probably more at some point we probably could have done and maybe made that investment and had some sort of return on that investment to at least balance the need. It's not there. Sorry, I'm gonna.
Sure. Just to clarify, none of the recycling is getting sorted in Flagstaff, it's all getting shipped to Phoenix. So I was on this commission a couple years ago when we were having the conversations and went through all the different options and like made comments on the different solutions to the recycling plant being out of commission here. And if I'm remembering correctly, one of the benefits of shipping off to Phoenix was we could expand what could be recycled in Flagstaff. Is that happening?
Now, only one product increased. On the other hand, one product decreased. So
Okay.
it was a bit of a wash for us. Yeah. So at this point, I don't even get into the numbers of it because it just makes people mad. So I go, well, last week I could do this. At this point, use less when you can, recycle what you think makes sense, and then throw the rest of it away.
What was the, what?
Actually, when you're talking about some of the
Plastic.
Yeah.
The twos and the.
twos.
So we stayed with jars, jugs and bottles.
Yes.
We did not change.
Yeah.
You can throw more in there. We did not change.
Yeah, we didn't change it, even though it did there. Honestly, every vendor we've talked to, we're working with Phoenix, it was different than when we were management. Honestly, from a marketing standpoint, it's a nightmare. So for us, we're kind of over marketing what you can recycle in hopes that people just do it. Yeah, just recycle when you can. And there's also been, nationally, there's a group, SWANA. So they're the National Solid Waste Organization. Their motto has been for years, when in doubt, throw it out. I struggle with that. I struggle with marketing that. That's a really tough marketing sell. I think it's better. I'd rather market, use less when you can and recycle what you think makes sense.
Oh. Is there, I mean, stuff that's totally reusable, like our silly egg cartons, or there's all kinds of, you go to Sprouts, you think it's almost like a bio, what's that,
With this
organic-
conservation heads on.
And yet, half the stuff in there is plastic, is wrapped in plastic of some kind. And it's this thermoformed plastic. I don't know if it's styrene or not, polystyrene, but stuff that you don't want in your recycle bin. So why? The point is, I lived in Germany in 30 years, is it 40 years now? It's a long time. Anyway,
Couple years ago.
yeah, a few years ago, and if they had packaging, they had to accept it back. That, even if they sold it, they had to take the packaging back.
Yeah.
And isn't there, as a citywide, can we apply pressure to? No, we can't.
You don't have-
Can we go to them and request? We can't even request. We can't.
No, it's just not our place.
It's not our place. Is there an additional tax to dispose of all the waste that they're sending out? That, of course, well, then why not? There's nothing we can do. This is free reign on the waste disposal by Bashas' and Safeway and Fry's. Is that it?
Commissioner, I think you and I would have a lot of fun over a 30-minute coffee, but
Okay.
I wish there was more we could do on that.
I feel outraged. So
So does the recycling process cost more than the landfill process for same weight of stuff, whatever you measure by?
Yeah,
So it's more expensive and we don't recover
per
enough?
ton, it's significant. Yep, significant.
Do we break even?
No.
That would cost money.
This year will be our first full year. We know we've under budgeted because we have maximized every dollar we could, deferring capital projects to try and cover the cost for this, for the first year, understanding that we weren't planning on this. So, it's a fairly large multi-million-dollar investment, to pick up out of nowhere ongoing thing, but we're trying. So right now, no, we will not bring it. I have one hand down here.
I just want to celebrate you for existing. Thank you. I have a house in Casa Grande where they kind of, when China started fouling stuff, they all went, oh, hell, we're not going to recycle anymore. They don't do recycling. They just don't bother. Just forget it. Just go stick it in a big hole out in the desert. So thank you for existing. Thank you for everything you do for us.
You hear that?
I did.
I'm just surprised. I used to live in Tucson where they would have you go down and like help sort stuff because that was kind of a job for people to do, blah, blah, blah. I kind of thought we had a place here in Flagstaff where we sorted stuff, but it just goes to Phoenix and they sort it. Is that right?
It does. Right now, that's where we're going.
And that's okay. Thank you for doing what you're doing. Thank you, thank you. I mean, when we have a state legislature, we were gonna get rid of the grocery bags and the state legislature shut us down. No, cities can't do that. Cities can't make determinations about the environment. We can't make determinations about conservation. So thank you. Thank you.
Do you have information on the percentage of recycling that gets separated to the landfill because of contamination?
Where were we at? That last report was actually pretty low.
I apologize. I'm Public Works Director, so Sam and I work together. We do have it in an audit. We can actually go pull it for you. We pulled an audit about a year ago. Al, you might remember off the top of your head. We pulled every product off of a sampling.
Yep.
And we had a residual number, so the waste in the recycle stream, it was fairly low. We suspected it was at about 30%. I know we were in the teens.
Yeah.
I can pull that data to get you a hard number, but I know we were better than we thought we were, so that was good news.
That was about waste in the recycle stream,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
poison.
And only a sample, right? We only took a couple days worth and sampled it.
Mm-hmm.
About 15.
Was it 15? Thank you,
Yeah,
Board.
we assumed we were gonna get much higher industry standards, which is closer to 30.
I took an environmental class in 1973. Born at ASU. And the professor made this big deal out of how water is much more rare, much more scarce than landfill. So we don't encourage you to do it. Just put it in the landfill. So we have come so many miles beyond where that was. Thanks to people like you. Thank you so much.
I have one question about the contamination. What types of contamination will create a load that has to just be trashed rather than put through the recycle process? So, because if you go with the when in doubt, throw it out, that sounds like contamination is so bad, you're gonna ruin everything. But if you're not sure, just how mindful do people need to be and how serious is the contamination? Like a pizza box, for example. This is one of the things we debate about in my house. When it's all greasy from the pizza, can I recycle that? Or is that contaminated?
Honestly, when you get it to the facility who's actually going to recycle it, if it has any food contaminants on it, they are going to throw it out.
And are they gonna pitch that box or are they gonna pitch the whole
No,
load
they'll
of
just pull
recycling?
that. They're working it through a system, but
I'm
9
not
times
sure.
out of 10, that's gonna get,
Glad to hear that.
if it's still got food residue on it. The sort facility that it goes to, they're splitting it off cardboard, ones, twos, and they're breaking it out by products. Then when they send it to the actual investors for product recycling, they're the ones that take it to that next level. Yeah, so
Normally just tear off the lid and throw the greasy part away, recycle the good part.
the hard part is for us, when we start seeing those numbers, is we realize, all right, we've now paid for it to be collected and we paid for it to be transported down to Phoenix. And then we are also investing in that cost to take that to transport it to the actual recycling organization just to see it thrown out again. it's tough, but it also extends life of our landfill, so we're trying to prove out the balance across the board. Yeah.
Yes, and I don't want to give you more work, but my thinking is when you're talking about sprouts, for example, or even just bashes. I don't know about anybody else, but when I go buy eggs, I won't buy anything that's in styrofoam or plastic. I buy the little cardboard boxes, even if it's $1 more. Does it make sense in any way to like appeal to these grocery stores to at least put a sign up saying these particular things will be recyclable and this won't be recyclable or something so that when people are, it seems to me like the consumer is the most powerful person in the room. They're the ones that we gotta hit. They're the ones that have to figure out, don't buy Tide in the plastic thing, buy Tide in the paper box, those kinds of things.
Yeah, it goes back to, we can do public education.
Yeah.
But limitations of government, people get really funny when government starts telling them what they can and can't do every day. Even people who are really dedicated to something, they get a little bit apprehensive on it. So I think there's good reason that we can't do stuff like that, but what we can do is positive public information. And that's what we're trying to shoot for, is changing that message a little bit.
Thank you. Stan, we're at time. I see you had your hand raised for a while. I'm sorry, Commissioner Carlson. Will you ask your question?
Hazmat has the reuse room. Why can't the city have one over at the MRF? You had a bleaker box with shelves and one person go in and clean it out once a month,
So we have the Hazardous Product Center at.
way out there, right?
Yeah, to license another one would be very difficult. We're not, it's based on your generation. I see called generation, but as a generator, as a hazardous waste generator, we don't generate enough waste to qualify for 2 product centers.
So if
So
it wasn't chemical, what if it was other landfill items that are still good?
it would still be defined as a hazardous product center. Same thing out there. It's not all chemical.
Right.
Yesterday they were disposing of light bulbs and old TVs. So it's falls under that same category. Again, from an industry standard, we're just too small. We can go get a larger license. We just triple our fees and we're still only producing in the small generator quantities.
And the city could use a satellite license as a just subdivision of that?
Sam, take it higher level. If it was a reuse center, nightstands, lamp posts, things that aren't hazardous waste,
Yeah.
maybe a thrift center, right, would be something similar.
In AU, you had
Property
bleaker
services.
boxes
Yep.
before that got everything taken back out as soon as people put in.
Yeah, we're not adding new programs in solid waste for that yet, but I mean, I do think a thrift store is a great example, right?
Yeah.
Where you can take it to a private thrift store, reuse. So I think you're not talking hazardous waste specific, you're saying just things, right? Yeah, we don't have that set up there at this time, but it's a good idea. We haven't floated that a whole lot, to be honest, but it's an idea.
Yeah.
Especially a diversion idea.
Sorry, I know.
One of everybody's favorite times is bulky pickup time, where you go drive around the streets and pick up other people's stuff. I think that might be something.
I
to add
can't
in the
condone it
newspaper.
legally.
Pickup's
No,
coming.
I'm not gonna sit there and tell you you can't do it. So, but I can't legally tell you.
Oh, that's-
But if it happened.
Yeah.
it happens. Not saying I've ever done it. Saying I haven't done it.
I guess with that, we'll
All right.
let you. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for the
much.
time.
Sam.
Sam.
I want your parts.
I've been saving, I've got a stack this high.
Full of chickens they found too.
Okay.
Do that now.
Warren?
Yeah, I'll just say the one subject that when you want everybody else to help is producer responsibility. And there's a huge effort going on to do that. But, and everybody's gonna, nobody has control of it, but a lot of people are pushing in that direction. So that's how you get everybody to be responsible for this stuff. But I have a little video that I made for Cocoa because they were doing a lousy job of recycling. And it's horrible. I've spent 1 hour writing it, producing it, and it's bad, but it shows what we have to do. We have to have stories we can tell in a few minutes. And so I'd like to show that if it's okay.
Yep, Chair White or Chair.
Yes,
Just
thank you.
remember that it's a mess.
Well, look, there's this guy in the corner when he looks familiar.
hero.
I didn't even remember that.
This is a quick 2-minute overview of what the city of Flagstaff can recycle and what not to put in the bin. The city can just take the aluminum and steel cans shown in the picture. Make sure the cans are empty and reasonably clean. For other steel, I take it to the dumpster at the recycling company on the north side of 66, a half-mile past the west side Home Depot. Aluminum, I take to Isaac's on the east side on Industrial just before Block Light. They pay 20 to 50 cents a pound depending on quality, and also pay for brass and copper, including power cords and wiring. So for paper and cardboard, almost any paper except waxed or contaminated with food. Window envelopes are okay. If you're interested in going the extra mile, you can take white office paper to elevated shredding on East Empire. It should not have colored paper or be glossy. Printing, including colors, is okay. It's free to drop off at elevated if you don't need it shredded. It's a much better use of paper than general recycling. Both cereal and corrugated boxes are okay. No plastic coated cardboard. You can see the plastic if you try to tear it. It really helps to remove the tape and flatten the boxes completely. Plastic is a little complicated. The city says just bottles, jugs, and jars, as in the picture. But they've also just added number 5s, polypropylene. They're trying to avoid thermoforms, also known as clamshells. They often say they are number 1, PET, but it has a modification that makes it non-recyclable in most places. Also, no films or plastic bags. Take those to the grocery store for recycling. And finally, don't use plastic bags for recycling. Neither people nor machines can see that it isn't dirty diapers. However, bagging trash is a good thing, less blowing around at the landfill. And that's it.
So, right forward.
Are there better trash bags than other trash bags? That's what we need to figure out.
We just need a lot of those.
It's all better.
We need one for restaurants. We need one for short-term rentals. And they aren't that hard. I mean, I know I didn't do a very good job, but I had an hour and that's all I was going to give to it. So you put a little more time, you do a better job. Thank you.
It was a good job, thank you.
Well, what about it's selling your cans instead of letting them have them for,
Yeah, that's-
for revenue?
Do that.
I heard that, yeah. Giving you some grief.
Most of the time, we're not really making money on it right now because it's between the shipping and the processing, it doesn't really pay. So if you can find a better way of doing it, you're helping everybody. Just basically what we were told earlier.
Would putting more sorting responsibility on consumers help with this at all? I know I've been in other places where you've got a bin for everything, and you have to,
If we had
Pay
a
for the
storage
bins.
facility, maybe.
right?
Even then, right now, they get sorted, it's gonna go.
Just gonna get dumped into a
individually.
big bucket.
It's all going to be dumped together.
Glass is the only thing, yeah, Scott's exactly right. Glass is the only thing we are sorting separately. For each one.
We do not want it in the street.
Cuts down on our tonnage, 1 and 2. There's just not a lot of market for it. We're working with sustainability on some alternate uses for it.
Crushed glass and
Yeah, to try and find something we can find a good purpose for them.
mix with concrete.
All right.
So Terry.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Briefly,
One last
Warden, if my ketchup bottle, if I wash it out, is it okay?
It's bottled jugs and jars, yep.
Okay, great.
Just how much water are you willing to use for it?
Yeah.
I know, it's like
Got
a
a balance.
conundrum, isn't it?
Got to balance it.
Thank you, everybody, for the discussion. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for your video, Ward. It's actually great. And I'm sure if you share that with Coco Op, it'll be very helpful
Yeah, I'm hoping.
for the recycling. All right, next on the agenda, we have Waste Supervisor Casey Rapaki. Is that pronounced?
Yeah, Becky.
Welcome.
Thanks. Hello, I met some of you already, but for those I haven't, hello. Sorry, hello, I'm Casey. Wow, that was all very good information and exactly everything that I'm trying to do in my role here. I love trash, personally passionate about it. So I've been here for like about a month now, so I'm still kind of getting the hang of everything and like understanding all the projects I'm working on now versus later, the tiered approach to everything. And something I just want to throw out there too that really comes to mind for me with this entire conversation is circular economy, proximity, keeping things local, and how can we, there's no one answer to recycling and what we do with all of our materials. But there's multiple answers and multiple avenues we could go. So kind of understanding that, and then my job, of course, communicating that for the people. So like one thing, like, I'm really excited for us to work together a little bit more and understand like what your needs are, and everything you just talked about. And so how can I take that information, make it consumable for everybody to understand? So yeah, and then a little bit of background about me as well. I worked at Zero Waste ASU for a while, loved trash, made me go crazy, then I loved it again, and the back and forth. But we learned a lot about consumer or producer responsibility as well. So for instance, Colorado leading the way, which is really cool. So I think it definitely is an approach that we have to take from all ends, right? So yes, putting it a little bit on the consumer, but we don't want to put all of the pressure on the consumer and make them have to learn all of this stuff when they might not love waste, which for me is hard to understand, but but yeah, so a lot of zero waste outreach, education, reporting, volunteer experience in my past, and I actually worked at an organic farm for a while, so that's why food systems is also very important to me. So yeah, and my main purpose for being here is really engaging with our goal set for the carbon neutrality plan and also the Rethink Waste plan. So yes, a huge highlight right now is like reuse, repair, keeping, really thinking about not extracting more resources from more items that we actually don't need. So yeah, I actually went to a circular economy symposium recently, and there was a lot of really, really cool ways and different ideas we can borrow from different cities, specifically down in Phoenix, for how we help with food waste before the food goes bad. Perfectly good food to eat. How do we get that from point A to point B to the people who need it? And then educating the public. So I work really closely with Natalie, as well as Bree, who's in Maricopa Vista, and they help me with a lot of that education and outreach type of events. So few internal partners that I've already started working with. I'm sure there's gonna be a million more, but solid waste, public works, community engagement, pros, some external partners, if y'all have heard of them before, Willow Bend Educational Center. They're fantastic. We just did a Verma compost event the other day. That was awesome. People got to take their own compost bins with worms home the other day. And then Restoration Soils, Compost Crowd, and Terra Birds works a lot with schools and education with compost. There's also other groups that I work with as well. So there's the Compost Council and the new Community Garden Advisory Group. That's really exciting. They're actually meeting right now. And then we also have, of course, our signature events. So these ones are really trying to push these out there, and we actually have had some asks to have multiple more drop-off events for these. So we have the pumpkin drop-off. First one's going to be November 4th, which is the Monday after Halloween. Then we're gonna have a second one for all those like pumpkins and gourds that you make your house look pretty with that weren't necessarily jack-o'-lanterns, so you didn't have to get rid of them, but now you're like, all right, time to go, it's Christmas. So we'll have a second one beginning of December. And then we have drop-off day as well, so making that as easy as possible for everybody. It's going to be a quick loop around. I'm sure y'all are familiar with that one. That's October 26th. And we have the Fix It Clinic, which I am so excited for. And I think there's a lot we can do, especially with collaborating with local youth around, especially the NAU. We're bridging some new collaborations and connections with them as well. So yeah, we're also looking for volunteers, by the way, if anyone's interested, if you like fixing bikes or anything. So make sure you text me. Other collaborative projects you might have heard of that I'll be working with: Urban Farm Incubator, Climate Resilience Project, the Neighborhood Sustainability Grants, which are closing very soon, Innovate Waste, and the Green Business Boot Camp. Another upcoming program that I have not started on, so don't ask me a whole lot of questions, but we have the Zero Waste Ambassador Program. So that one, I think, is going to be more of like a culmination of what we've done in the past with like the master recycling course, and things of that nature. So yeah, very excited. I'm sure I'm missing a lot of things because man, there's some shoes to fill in this role. But yeah, mostly excited to just bridge a lot of those gaps and how do we solve this big problem that we all share, you know? Yeah, so I'm very passionate about the education aspect too. So, really listening to solid waste. What do we actually need? What needs to happen? So, yeah, and I guess I'll open up for questions or see if you want anything else additional.
Yeah.
As well.
My name is Stephen Thompson. I serve as a manager within the sustainability division, and I oversee programs that Casey is directly involved with. And her work plan is pages long, and the real focus being on waste prevention and all the ways that we can prevent waste from ending up in the recycling bin or in the landfill. So we're exploring as many different ways as possible to get that done, whether it's social media campaigns. We're working on a video series to connect a lot of the different sustainability programs and that focus on waste prevention. So if you want to know more, sign up for our newsletter and you'll see all these things coming through, or check out the website and look through that great information.
Are you the ones in charge of bulky pickup?
Oh, what?
Bulky pickup.
No,
It's them.
that is solid waste.
I just thought, did they have two kinds of bulky pickup? One that's leaves and things and one that's other stuff.
We're exploring some changes in that program.
Oh, good.
I wasn't gonna speak up to your comments.
When they decide that, I'll help communicate that to everybody. So.
And we work very closely with solid waste every year for the tree cycling program. So you'll hear more information about that coming up. So we explore as many different opportunities and partnerships as possible to put waste in the right place and prevent it from happening.
So I heard you talking about how you do collaborations with NAU. I'm just wondering specifically with composting, I know there's multiple community gardens there that basically they advertise that they want people to bring their compost there. And I'm wondering if you guys do any collaborations with them, mostly to the Flagstaff community, saying bring your food waste to these gardens and they'll take your food as compost.
Yeah, we actually have, yes, we do. We have the residential food scrap drop-off program. So that's more of a traditional way to think of like a bucket for compost, and compost cart will come around and pick up those buckets and put new ones in place. I believe they do it weekly depending on the location. But we also have the community gardens. So I believe we have 5 locations all around Flagstaff, which is cool because in proximity to everybody who lives here. And you can go drop off in like the giant bins where it actually all gets pushed, the traditional compost style. So yes, there's multiple options for that. And I'm sorry, did I answer your question?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, I'm curious mostly about NAU too, but that's good to hear that you're doing stuff with.
Yeah, and I'm actually myself learning more and more now about that. We're kind of getting new contacts with NAU and seeing how we can really like collaborate, like move in, move out, for example. Yeah, thank you.
Good question. Are we doing any drop-offs at gardens this year?
I believe so. I will talk to Natalie and we'll spread the word.
They need it.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
So I'm actually on the community garden advisory group. So had to like choose one on this one, but we'll have them separate times. Yeah. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
So we've talked about doing like kind of food waste reductions and or promoting that and doing more compost pickups. So kind of curious like how we're thinking about scaling that.
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked that question. I can't share too much information, but there's a lot of planning in the process for how we can enable residential folks on their own if they want to have different forms of compost. We have all those different kinds of forms and how you can access that. Also on another, having different community drop-offs. So if you don't want compost in your own house, if you want to be doing community drop-off spaces, spreading awareness about that as well. So
Especially in like higher density areas.
yes, yeah, I mean, compost, it really feels like, yeah, like I liked what Sam had brought up about reuse is really the name of the game right now, but we're still gonna have a lot of that waste. So next up for me is really that compost. How do we get that food out of the landfill that's getting trapped and under all the plastic bags and refrigerators or whatever's over there? And, the methane production doubles, triples, so that is a huge part for me. I personally love composting. Doing it for a very long time, so.
Cool. Second part was, what are some of your goals with the carbon neutral?
Honestly,
I can jump in.
yeah, go ahead, yeah.
So there are aspects within the carbon neutrality plan primarily around sustainable consumption and reducing waste. And those are the primary focus areas, and all of our programming focuses on those two aspects. There's definitely some overlap when you think about emissions. If we're having fewer trucks picking up certain items, that's going to reduce emissions in general. So the work with waste prevention kind of spans a significant gamut within the carbon neutrality. And we're working on ways to tell that story better to make those stronger connections. So that way it's easier to be like, oh, I see how this connects to the CNP. And we're building out some long-term work plans in that space.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe the webs I have on mural board. I'm connecting all the dots, yeah.
I look forward to seeing some of the sustainable consumption type of.
Yeah,
stuff, so.
right, because we want to benefit from this. We have the materials already. Let's make it work for us, right? Everything can be used for something. I'm a hardcore believer in that, so. Even economic prosperity to the CMP. Any other questions? Of course, feel free to reach out to me anytime.
I need to go. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I love your energy and enthusiasm for waste. I think it's exactly what we need. So thanks for joining me in Flagstaff. That's exciting. And I'm really excited about the education and outreach with respect to recycling and waste prevention. Okay, on the agenda next is, since we got through the business with our visitors, we're gonna kind of reel it in and do some introductions and welcome these new commissioners. So,
Thank you, Sam.
yeah, thank you so much for joining our Sustainability Commission. Would you like to start? Let's just go around the table and introduce yourself, just a little bit about your background and why you're here.
Thanks so much, Chair Wolfman-Feet. My name is Ethan Conkle. I've been on the commission since March of 2020, and I teach in the undergraduate public health program at NAU. I'm on the commission because the intersection between public health and sustainability is really interesting and important to me, and I like these fine folks at the table. Had a lot of fun for the past couple of years. The highlight for me is the neighborhood sustainability grants.
Hey everyone, my name is Cameron Carlson. I'm actually new to Flagstaff earlier this year and have worked with NAU with their Arizona Climate Resilience Corps over the summer, and then did some climate dating work, and now working with the Forest Service watershed check with Coconina. And I have a background in earth science and IT. I've worked with and been on some nonprofit boards such as the AAW, American Association for University Women, and Conserve Southwest Utah. And I have a really big passion in native plants and gardening, climate resilience and mitigation, and and everything is interconnected there. So, yeah, I'm really pleased to be here. Thanks for having me.
So my name's Roger Skrulak and, let's see, I'm a retired chemist, but I have a passion for fixing, reusing things and using as little stuff as I can. So that's,
Good
let's see,
passion to me.
I now garden, bicycle everywhere. Well, not everywhere, but as much as I can. Which is a lot. And, well, anyway. My wife didn't think I had enough to do, so that's why I'm here.
I am Elijah Bourne. I'm mostly here. I was born and raised in Flagstaff, and pretty much for my whole life, I've said that my ultimate dream would be to buy my parents' home from them and to be able to raise my family in my childhood home. So I definitely care a lot about just where Flagstaff's headed. And also, I'd say my other main passion in this world is sustainability. I just graduated NAU this previous semester with a degree in sustainability and a minor in community engagement. So I think that I definitely have a good intersection there with caring about Flagstaff and sustainability for this council. Just really excited to be here. And yeah, I also serve on for nonprofit Friends of Flagstaff's Future. So that is also kind of how I got connected with even knowing that there was an opening here. Yeah, just really appreciate you guys having me here and I'm excited.
I'm Mary Metzger, second generation native Arizonan. Spent a lot of time in Flagstaff, starting in 1973. I love throwing those years around because everyone's so young. I'm a retired school administrator, prior to that, teacher and a counselor. And my passion was always kids and their futures and where things are going for them, which seems like a perfect match with sustainability because that's really what we're all about is the future. So that's why I'm happy to be here. And I've taken courses in environmentalism and sustainability and done the protest marches and things like that. But the key for me is preparing for the future and taking care of kids.
Lanny, I've lived here in Flagstaff for 2 years now, but Western US for all my life. And so it's all familiar in that way. Never done anything like this before, so that's the main reason I'm here. I was just looking for new things to do. And this was a topic of interest, sustainability and how do we, make the world at least keep it sort of okay, is kind of what it feels like sometimes. But yeah, just trying to figure out how you can make a difference here in this community and keep it a place we all want to be.
Introduce yourself.
I'm Josh. I've been living here in Flagstaff for about 3 years now. I'm really interested in sustainability. I also work at Rooftop Solar in the solar industry. And my girlfriend completed a master's program at NAU in anthropology and with kind of like a public health, medical anthropology focus. So kind of like really also interested in the community and kind of that aspect of it. So yeah, excited to participate.
Josh is joining the grant review panel.
Oh, excellent. Good.
I'm Tia. I'm the staff liaison with the Sustainability Commission. I've met most of you, but likewise, I care about our environment and the people that depend on it. I'm Miller in the Vision, and I'm here to support all these wonderful people and the myriad of programs that you've already heard so much about just this first hour.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Wolkowitsky. I came to Flagstaff for school in the 90s and have pretty much been here since, raised my family here. So I feel very connected to Flagstaff. And I'm a geologist by training. I've always been passionate about the natural environment, the outdoors, and preserving, and not just preserving, but cleaning up the messes we've made. And right now I'm over at NAU. I am the Associate Director of a Science and Technology Innovation Lab, and I'm teaching graduate coursework in greenhouse gas accounting this year. It's so great to hear all of your stories, and thank you, Tia and Marissa, for keeping us afloat. These are the ones that do all the work for us.
Yeah.
So we can be here and talk for a couple hours every month. So thank you. Well, awesome. Really nice to meet everybody. I'm excited to dive into Commissioner Conkel's most favorite part of being on Sustainability Commission, which is the neighborhood sustainability grants, which is a fantastic program. I've been on the commission for 1 year, so it's coming on a year. I've been involved in the sustainability grant process one time. It was kind of whirlwind, but I'm excited to do it again and
Always a whirlwind.
learn more about it from Tia and Kristen, who are going to walk us through this scoring exercise.
We have a quick update, and I'm just gonna breeze through this. Although it does include some pretty important topics that I would like everyone and kind of challenge everyone to keep in mind as they are going through the grant review process over the next 2 months, really. So first, really quick update. The application deadline for grants, if you know of anyone interested, remind them it's this Monday at midnight, September 30th. We've had some wonderful grant workshops and 5 virtual support hours and 1 in-person support hours at the library. And all of them have been decently well attended, so people are hearing about them and utilizing this resource. And based off the number of conversations I've been having, I expect it to be another competitive year.
If we had come in so far.
Come in, maybe like 4 fully completed through SurveyMonkey, but we've expanded the submission option, so I think most of them will be coming in the next few days. Yeah.
On Monday.
A lot of respect for procrastination myself.
I understand. Just again, briefly, I wanted to go over the topic of biases in grant making. The purpose of discussing this in this context is to help ensure that the grant applications receive fair review that are free from inappropriate influences, and ensuring that grant reviewers adhere to the provided scoring criteria and the rubric to help prevent biases. So biases, I remind most of you, a tendency to believe that in this context, this type of biases, to believe some people are either more or less than others with certain qualifiers, such as like their intelligence, capabilities, trustworthiness. An implicit bias, as you may know, is that it's a positive or negative attitude or stereotype. It's one that you kind of more actively think about. And thus, you may also choose to honor or kind of oppose that bias. And then explicit unconscious biases is a habitual way of thinking that impacts our thoughts, actions, and decisions, but they're influenced by factors other than active thoughts or reasoning. Sorry for the typos. And therefore, they're harder to combat and think about. And this is pulled from a wonderful grant training that I will provide you all if you all have an extra hour in the next week or so. That was from the Regional Arts Commission for their grant review panel. And then just a few ways that some biases may show up in this process is that you might set a higher bar or increase scrutiny for certain applicants. You might be more lenient and excuse certain things for certain applicants. There's a likability, favorability, or penalty. So an example of like the penalty would be that, oh, everybody likes them, they're too likable. I need to kind of penalize them for that. Some countermeasures, and I'll provide this as well with materials. Countermeasures and actions to consider as we're going through this process. Just take a pause. Notice how quickly a thought can turn into a bias. Working on adapting your mindset. Remembering that we don't know everything. We can't know everything. And then normalizing, shifting our behaviors on what is normal, what something is or isn't, and just recognizing kind of what we gravitate towards is not going to be what other people kind of gravitate towards.
And then some actions utilizing the clear scoring rubric that we've made. Equalizing the bar and evaluations and noticing if you're being more lenient in certain areas, like making sure that's equal across all of those projects. And then, yeah, and also if you're being more like favorable on certain things as well. And then blocking criticisms of personalities. So focusing on the project itself. This is not kind of between people, this is about the projects, and just being really aware of that and trying to focus on the aspects of the grant proposal itself. So again, I just challenge everyone to think through these things as you're working through this scoring exercise and the real one in just over a week. Thank you.
On to me. Yeah, that was really great. For doing that this time around. I'd also like to encourage everybody to think about reading through proposals before you start scoring them. Sometimes if you read one and it kind of sets the bar for everybody else, and that's also an unfair bias. So if you read 2 or 3 and kind of like get the feel for it, that can help you not like rate the first one really, really strictly and then ease up as you go over 10 proposals. Something to consider. So for today, Tia and Chair Woodski asked me to lead the kind of practice exercise to go through the rubric and make sure everybody knows how to use the rubric, what the scoring will be like, and answer questions that you have and kind of do like a norming exercise so that we're all thinking on the same page when it comes to the scoring. And this is not so that we are saying every single commissioner should have the same score on a proposal, because that's unrealistic. And we know that we do have our, our own way of interpreting what people are maybe saying in their applications, our own way of interpreting the rubric itself. But we really want to try to ensure that commissioners are scoring pretty consistently, so that one commissioner's not like, wow, this project was amazing, all high scores on every category. And another commissioner was like, no, I gave it really low scores. Right, so that's the purpose of having the rubric, to try to ensure that there's some consistency across scoring. When we meet to review the proposals in October, November, is that the meeting?
November, December.
Okay, the last meeting of the year is when we put all of our scores together in the spreadsheet and we take a look at the proposals with the highest discrepancy, essentially, and we talk through the folks that gave them really high scores and the folks that gave them lower scores to see where that mismatch was. But this kind of norming exercise for doing a grant proposal is pretty common when you have new folks on the commission. We've done this every couple of years. So did everybody read the application?
Yes.
And if not, we have it to reference right in front of us as well. So how I thought we could do this today is take a look at each of the scoring evaluation criteria, kind of one at a time. So we'll talk about what the criteria are. We'll give 2 to 3 minutes for us to refresh our memories of the proposal and come up with the score that we would give the proposal independently. And if you have the computer, you can stick it into your tab in the Microsoft Excel sheet. Otherwise, you can just, I'll tell you on a score of 0 to 3, 0 to 6, whatever, you can just write down what score you think. And then we'll go around and we'll all say what our scores were. And if there's a big discrepancy, we'll talk about why. And we'll do that for each of the evaluation criteria. So the first evaluation criteria is the conformity with the grant goals. And this is from a score of 0 to 6. If a proposal does not, if a proposal gets a 0 on this, they are not eligible to receive the grant. Right? They have to conform with at least one of the overall goals of the grant in order to be eligible for grant funding. So the score of 0 to 6, when we're looking at the scoring criteria, there are 3 overall goals. Number 1, meaningfully involving underserved communities, diverse groups, or vulnerable populations. Number 2, building community partnerships. And number 3, facilitating volunteer engagement or management. And so if you have to meet at least 1, but meeting 2 will give you a higher score, and meeting all 3 will give you the highest score. And you have to also clearly state in there how your grant proposal idea, your project idea is going to help facilitate meeting those overall goals. You can't just say, we will involve underserved communities. Like you have to also state what that looks like. So receiving 5 to 6 points, the project clearly and directly aligns with all 3 of the overarching grant goals. 3 to 4 points is clearly and directly aligns with 2 of the 3, and 1 to 2 points is clearly and directly aligns with 1 of the 3. So with that in mind, let's take 2 to 3 minutes to refresh our memories on this. If you turn to page 4 in the document, that is where this question is specifically listed in the grant. You want me to do? We recommend funding. They have to at least meet 1 of the goals in order to be able to. Remember?
Got it.
Do you think it would be helpful to see the total average scores at all, or? It's not like we're comparing it to.
Okay, so let's maybe start with Chair Makuzi in terms of the or the circle.
So I also pulled up my review from last year and looked at what I gave this application, and the scoring system has changed. And so I think that your advice to read through the applications first is really good, because I did not do that last year. And I found myself I went back and I adjusted some scores. And so in my opinion, I think that they have identified alignment with all three of the goals. So I would say 6. My question is, if I'm giving them points for meaningfully addressing all the goals, does that bonus point come in? Because I think they could actually do more with underserved communities, but the fact that they're involving the Flagstaff Family Food Center, I think checks the box that they're hitting that third goal.
Gotcha.
So,
That's a good question.
so I would
Maybe let's
say,
talk about it after. we
yep,
vote on it.
I would
Okay.
say 6 points on this one.
Josh,
Yeah.
thanks so much.
I have a
Josh.
follow-up
Sure.
question. So that's max points minus, like, not including the bonus.
Correct.
Could I also get a name reminder? Sorry.
Kristen.
Kristen, okay, yeah, Kristen. Yeah, I think this is sort of one of my questions as well. I felt like, I guess I would agree that they are meeting all three of these goals, but I feel like a little bit of that is like reading the whole application and like reading a little bit into the bigger project. And kind of in this direct answer here, I was gonna give it a 4 in terms of, yeah, kind of meeting the first two and like directly addressing those. And yeah, maybe missing out on one of them.
Okay, great. So you think they're not facilitating volunteer engagement or movement?
Yeah.
Okay.
I gave them 7, but I kind of define kids as an underserved community in and of themselves.
Right.
Treat them like chattel, we give them the world, you know? And so, yeah, I gave them all the points on that.
I give them a 5 because of I think there's some vagueness to it. There's allusions to the volunteerism and allusions to, once we have some food, then we're gonna be able to do this and that. But I don't think it's concrete enough in terms of specific planning, so I gave them 5.
Yeah, I was thinking something pretty similar. I gave them a 5. Mostly it was about the volunteering. I feel like they talk about volunteering, but they don't really talk about like facilitating volunteers or just like, this is the volunteers that we do. It's not like they're actually putting it on themselves.
I gave them a 5 as well, but I thought that the kids actually were volunteering their time. I didn't, I thought they were a little vague on, even though they get a check mark on involving the family food center. It seemed more vague. I mean, the food might go to them, but it's also, I don't know, the whole thing seemed to, supplying food to the family food center from the start seemed vague to me. Serving an underserved community didn't seem very strong, so 5 points.
I also did a 4-pointer, that I did think they meaningfully involved, I consider children as like a vulnerable population, in this instance, but yeah, totally could be underserved. And then almost like a half point within like number 2, number 3, as in the building community partnerships was big, as you guys said, and then also the volunteer engagement and enhancement. However, definitely like the children being engaged in it is definitely volunteer technically. And then just like on the bonus point that they didn't get is that they didn't thoroughly address how. So I wasn't even about this.
So I have before I tell you my score. If you say you think something is, but it was vague and you're trying to like pull it out from them, are you still giving them both points for that?
No.
Tom says yes, Mary says no.
Both points.
Like, so if every goal is worth 2 points out of the 6, and you're saying meaningful or meaningfully involving underserved populations, I think so, I'm gonna give them 2 points, but they don't really address that very explicitly, it's kind of vague. Are you still putting the 2 points down?
Well, if they're serving an underserved community, whether they explain it well or not, yes, I would still give them the points. You know, if they're doing work, whether they explain it perfectly on air or not, honestly, I'll work to try and dig out of the words what I think they're trying to do. So I'm not gonna hammer anybody for you'd be being vague here unless I think they're just throwing, smoke, and they're not gonna do that. But this project, I didn't see any of that.
Yeah.
So I just have a question about the bonus point. Is that only awarded when they're at 6, or can you get to 5 in a certain category and then get them to 6 with that bonus point?
You can, yeah, so you can end up having 7 points. So it's just a bonus point if you think, I think they are meaningfully serving underserved populations and they did a good job explaining it, or however you want to interpret that, then they get an extra point.
And part of the vague for me was commentary such as Flagstaff Junior Academy has supported other organizations in Flagstaff through volunteering. It doesn't have a sense of students in this program go down to the Flagstaff and do this and this and this. It's not explicit enough. That's what I mean by vague.
Yeah, and Mary, I agree with you. I gave them a 2 on this category. I thought that they, and maybe I'm a teacher, so I'm a harder grader. I thought that they kind of talked about building partnerships. It wasn't really anywhere else in their project milestones about what those partnerships would look like. I also thought that they kind of talked about reaching underserved in the community. They were like, people can walk by, anyone can use it, it'll be open. Like, sure. But they, saying all kids are an underserved community to me feels like a huge stretch. And they did not talk about volunteering as a part of this project. They said that there's kids sometimes volunteer at the food center.
Yeah.
So that's not a part of this project. So I didn't get points. But this is why I think that interpretations of I want to make inferences and then give them more points if I'm inferring, I think that's appropriate. But I don't think everyone has to give the 2 points if they're saying, even if they didn't explicitly state it.
Well, it's like, what's an underserved community? That's a huge subjective term.
If they would have talked about how FJA kids are an underserved community, I would have read it.
They would have stipulated.
But I don't feel like I, as the grant reviewer, should have to go up and look up the population of FJA kids.
They didn't even make a description of once there's fruit, we're going to put them in baskets and we're going to take it down to the food truck. It was just like, it's one thing that we might be able to do in the vague and different future. I think there needs to be, it is a school program, so schools are required to be a little more clear in terms of their objectives and their follow through.
Yeah.
I did the kind of column F, which I guess you can't tell which one it is. It's just, I did split up kind of that bonus point, so that, it can be separate. So they could get, just meet one of them being the meaningfully involved and get that bonus point. But another key to this bonus point, which for the more newcomers, was kind of a incorporation with some of our equity goals that have been discussed over the last year and a half year. It's kind of that last part about thoroughly addresses how they're meaningfully involving them. Right.
I also want to say, if you read something and it feels like you can extract and give them really high scores, all of your scores are going to be inflated for everyone. It's going to be really hard to pick out the top grants, right? So if you think that that's why I'm also read a couple before you get started so you can gauge the level of project against the evaluation criteria. But if you're giving people the benefit of the doubt constantly all the time and giving them really high scores because you think that the project, when it happens, is going to do all these things, everyone's going to get a high score and it's going to be hard to pick out. It's the fun thing. So we're moving to again, it's time. I want to get through at least a couple of these categories. The next category is conformity with project objectives. Conformity with category objectives, and their category was food. So as a reminder, the food objectives are: number 1, promote and educate on access to sustainable and equitable food systems. Number 2, increase food recovery efforts. And number 3, increase pollinator habitat. So in the proposal itself, question number 14 on page 4, if you have the printout, question 14 is where they are asked to talk about their category specific objectives. So if we want to do 2 or 3 minutes of refreshing your memories and coming up with your score, the maximum score for this one is 5.
Anyone need 5 more minutes?
I gave them a 4 on this one. I think the increased food recovery efforts, it's great to have offering to be like a hub for community composting, increased pollinator habitat, and the educational aspect is in there, but it could be more clearly, like it's just talking about, this educating the kids about gardening. They talk about involving the community, but not really, they don't go into any detail about community education or outreach, so. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I also went for a 4 on this one, I think for kind of the same reasons. One thing I thought was interesting was the compost exchange site. Like going back to the previous discussion, I think that would have been a great example of a community partnership. And they kind of missed that opportunity to put that in that answer. But again, kind of like reading the whole application lets you like pull some of the things out, so.
Yeah, and that's the other thing to keep in mind as we're doing this exercise is like, we'll actually read the whole application before getting to the scoring.
We'll hopefully with it before we get
Yeah,
after.
yeah, it's just,
This is gonna be tough, because I did 5 again, and I think it's just because I like kids, schools, and gardens. This is, this is a great project, yes.
Right, so the Tia did that little bias.
Totally. But I tried to take it out, and I still think they hit the criteria. I mean, promoting and educating on access to sustainable foods. I mean, growing your own food is the most sustainable food activity you can have. And choosing native plants and the process they're going through to pick the plants and stuff, I think is exactly that. Food recovery, I mean, if you want whole food recovery, they are gonna, have food for the cafeteria and neighbors, or the waste, the recycle. So they've covered both sides of food recovery. And then pollinator habitat, that'll be by default with plants that are producing food. So then 5.
Wish you had mentioned going back and looking at your scores last time, because I went back and looked at mine. And I gave them a 3 the last time, 4 this time, but mostly because I keep reading it as a passive kind of thing. The kids are gonna appreciate the work. It reads an awful lot like the teacher's gonna be doing all of the work and all of the actual production of all of this. And of course, they're the ones writing the grant, so that's their vision. Teachers can be good grant writers, but I think that's the thing, the feeling I keep having is there's not enough specificity about what the kids are gonna be doing and how they're gonna gain from it and where it's gonna go next. It just feels too big.
Well, I did have a question about this. Was the school actually the one who submitted the grant, or was it an outside agent?
Teacher from the school.
Okay.
And just a real quick note, as you're kind of making, especially if you're marking down, we need to have record of your comments. So that when people ask, okay, why didn't I get the grant? How can I improve it for next year if I still want to do it? That we can provide helpful feedback. So the final column that didn't quite make it on this sheet, but will be on the actual scoring sheet is going to be if you have any questions for the applicants, and then notes regarding scoring. So everything we're talking about would be kind of a.
Well, and without, I hope this isn't an inappropriate commentary, but I asked last year on this one, because they talk about how they are building a new school and they're going to do this new project. I asked, why don't they have a budget for a science program for this kind of thing? And you asked them and they said, just don't have one. Yeah. And I thought, well, that's odd. So.
I was kind of in between a 3 and a 4, but I went with a 4. I just felt like they didn't really talk about what they were doing for regenerative practices. I mean, they say that they want to do composting and rainwater harvesting, but those aren't really, I mean, they are related to regenerative, but not really right on that for me.
Well, I just gave them a 5, but yeah, I felt that I put my results in the spreadsheet earlier. Can you see what I gave them?
Without pressure on you?
Yeah, see how consistent I am.
I've ended up in someone else's.
Well, I put it under Roger or scroll.
Yeah. Did you do it in an Excel? Did you do it in the Google Doc one? Or a separate Excel?
These big plants, that pollinators will be.
I didn't do it.
Some
I
native
sent,
plants.
you sent me the spreadsheet and I filled it out. I thought
Send it
that,
to me?
no, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I didn't.
Okay.
I tell them.
I was gonna say.
I'm on. Yeah,
That,
okay,
no,
so
it's
anyway,
confusing.
so
There's a lot.
I don't, I was just curious to see what I said to myself. I gave them 5 because I thought they hit the criteria that was just on the board that maybe we should put back up on. We can see it to remind me, yeah.
Those are
I think their target group is the kids and that's where they're trying to involve and that to do all those things. So I give them a perfect score on that, I think, but.
Say that.
All right.
You want me to sit next to him?
Rated a 3 on this one, like a full point or 2 for food recovery efforts. That's probably what they explained the best. And a point for pollinator habitat, but still a bit vague on that. And then nothing concrete on promoting and educating the access to sustainable and equitable food systems. Like definitely when you said the appreciate, yeah, that's super vague and it's not promoting or educating. And so just having the door open, maybe if they had signs that they said, we'll put signs around the garden so that neighbors that wander in, you know, as they kind of
Give that.
improve, then that's a type of education effort. So, yeah.
I gave them a 5. I followed even before because I wanted more information in their Blackstone table, their timeline about the education specifically and how it was like integrated into the school day. But I did think that they talked about how the primary group they're educating is the students, right? They're not trying to necessarily educate the entirety of the Flagstaff population. And then the pollinator and food recovery I thought was pretty clear. But I also, when I'm really harsh on her categories, I think I got picked next to the next category. So I did my ratings. I did my ratings before we came here. It is a bio. I did my ratings before you came here. It's sometimes influence what I say by what everyone else is saying. So that's what was in my scoring from earlier.
Well, and part of the language they use, the very first sentence is the primary objective is for students to establish and manage the garden.
Right.
And then they go right off that too. We're gonna do all the work though. The students will appreciate it. They'll be there. Once the and I think they needed more steps of this is how the students will be learning. This is what they're gonna be doing.
Yeah, I think one question that I had more broadly that I'm not sure directly relates to the grant, but is about the program. Yeah, both my mother and my older sister are teachers. I have kind of gone through actually some similar programs like this. But yeah, will the kids be like, is this like a sort of a, you know, like an after school club volunteer, like, sort of activity, or is this like a, you know, a science class, like kind of more mandatory involvement? And I think there's pros, cons to both sides of things. But especially when it comes to the educating, on access to, and especially the equitable food systems part of it. You know, if it's a completely voluntary activity, many kids are not really getting any of that instruction necessarily.
I think we have time maybe for 2 more of the evaluation criteria. So I'm going to skip over to project innovation. Project innovation is scored at and the project incorporates strategies or methods that are new or new to their context. The project has substantial potential to teach new things about how to effectively approach sustainability related problems. Creativity, experimentation, and or breakthrough techniques are a feature of the project. Innovation is clearly described by the applicant. So that gets you all 4 points.
Is there a question on the thing that you want to draw us to, or is it just a generic perspective?
Yeah, there is a question specifically in here. It is question number 15 on page 5.
Thank you. Question of 2 or 3 of the experts in the room. Because I'm a little confused on something. Garden beds versus food forests.
I think they came up with the term food forest.
Oh, okay. It's not a scientific term. I thought it was like specifically.
Thing.
I thought they were talking about pear trees and apple trees and things like that when they said food forests.
They
Yeah,
are.
it's an actual thing in permaculture
Okay.
that a lot of indigenous folk have used to kind of create like a self-sustaining system.
Okay.
And it has like different layers.
It's just a natural garden, basically, kind of nature's
Kind
garden.
of, yeah.
I mean, they had in their budget like multiple fruit trees.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
20.
That's why the raised garden thing threw me off.
This says a diverse planting of edible plants that attempts to mimic the ecosystems of patterns found in nature.
Exactly.
You looked it up on, you're so good. That isn't in their grant application.
I wish.
Should be.
I also thought it was just like,
Yeah.
I'm interested in this eugelliculture. Eugelliculture.
The grant, you shouldn't have to Google things as you go, right?
Yeah, they're using like perhaps jargon in them as well. They say it's this.
Okay, do we need more time for our innovation score out of 4?
Huh.
Yep, okay. I'm gonna go with 1 on this one. And yeah, it's great that it will be a new concept to some of the people that get exposed to it. But I think it's, the response says it's not really innovative. And so, they can't even really come up with creative ways to make arguments for its innovation. I'll give them a 1 for that little attempt.
Yeah, I also would give them a 1. And I think my reasoning was kind of around the food forest term and concept. I think there is opportunity there for some innovative ideas to come into what is, otherwise a school garden. But yeah, they certainly have not talked it up too much.
I just want to say that I almost gave them more points because I just learned what a food forest is. It's pretty innovative. I reviewed this grant last year and didn't learn anything about a food forest because I didn't, I actually reviewed all these applications on an airplane. So I downloaded everything. I didn't have access to any other resources besides what was in the grant applications. And so yeah, that's why I stuck with the 1. So I agree with you, but I think that's, yeah.
I gave them 2 points because they confessed there was nothing innovative. They were honest.
2 points for honesty.
Well, one point because it is a cool program, and 1 for telling us there is nothing new.
Well, I gave them 2 points because I consider there is innovation and we're gonna go out to a big square piece of nothing dirt and make a forest and make a garden, and that's, did we get your vote? If that much you were gonna vote for?
Yeah.
Did we skip over you? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's why I gave 2. I thought, okay, there's something to be said for in the grant writing concept to say, there is nothing innovative. They could have said that almost every single grant. There's nothing new about gardens. There's nothing new about recycling. There's nothing they wanted to, but they at least made the point that they're gonna go out that, although they're back to being vague. They're back to, we're not really sure how they're gonna make that dirt be something worth working on for the kids. But I gave them 2 points for that. I was kind.
I also gave them 2 points. I think they could have done a better job at describing what was innovative. Specifically to me, I mean, to do like things like the Three Sisters technique. I mean, that could be described as a different technique. I feel like most gardens are just traditional gardening versus something like a Native American technique. But I also felt like, I mean, it says in the 1 to 2 points, I wanted to go on the higher side because it says may not be practical solution to the community's needs. And I feel like still somewhat is practical for our community needs.
Makes me feel better.
Well, I gave them 2, but I think I would be willing to revise it down a little bit. Because I didn't know really what a hugel culture is. I know what a hugel is, but, or Three Sisters. But they say right there, it's been used for centuries, so then is that really innovative or is just innovative in Flagstaff? I don't know, but so I would be willing to revise it.
I guess I give the highest on this one. I give 3. Especially compared to traditional Western gardening, that this is like truly innovative. They definitely downplayed it in their description, but even in the very first, like, Josh, you talk about like understanding the whole application in their first like paragraph of defining the project, like they talk about regenerative agriculture, they talk about a self-sustaining garden. So like all the things that they probably should have incorporated within this. And that on the description, it also talks about refining existing strategies and methods. And I think like this is food forests are permaculture. Again, if you don't have that background, like it's lost a little bit, but permaculture is always adapting to the place. And so it's always a refining aspect. So yeah, so 3 on that one.
I gave it 2 for most of the same reasons everyone else did. I just think their project as it's presented might not really be super new and innovative, but it will be new and innovative for kids. So I also did appreciate that they were like, maybe it's not, and more of the honesty piece of it. Again, I wanted to do the climate action one too, but we kind of ran out of time. So
Okay, so
yeah,
one other thing on the awesome. The last sentence on the project innovation is also that other people can come in the future and learn from it and apply. And like, how many of you guys have food? But like,
There you go.
have a garden.
Learn something
Have a
right there.
food board. So I think anyone in the community can come in and bolster that.
so when we get our grant proposals on like Tuesday next week or whatever, in your
Closer to
Friday next week. Okay.
maybe Wednesday.
Just some little pointers for folks that are new. It is super, super helpful that what I do is I take a note in my spreadsheet underneath every category when I'm scoring and say why I gave that score. For every grant I do, for every category, if I give them a perfect score even, I say why. When we come back to meet and talk about it, we really will only talk about the projects with the high discrepancies. But it's going to be months later that we're doing this. So you're going to need that refresher. Otherwise, it takes really long to do that in the meeting. Those little personal comments will not be shared with the grant reviewers. The ones that are tagged, like your comments for reviewer or for the applicants, those are going to be the comments that will be shared. That being said, all of this is still public. Anything that you like take notes in the document here is a public document. So if you don't want your like personal notes on why you scored the way that you did, and you only want to share the overall comments, like you could keep those as a private document for yourself. Is that the correct thing to get, or did I get that?
Yeah.
I print them off, so I handwrite it on the piece of, on the document, so I'm assuming what, yes, and that's absolutely accurate. But if somebody petitioned what I've written down, I should have to give it to them. But they're gonna have to figure out what it says, because my handwriting's all.
And if anyone else, Mary, if you would like me to print those, for example, or if anyone else would like printed material.
Oh, that would be nice. My ink would be greatly
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. So we'll arrange that.
You were very kind in helping me out. I actually use it on the website though too.
Are we gonna record our scoring and the Google Doc?
Not this one. This was just for the practice scoring, which also, if you noticed anything that was kind of off or wrong about this practice one, we're gonna make a new one for the actual real scoring. That includes also your randomized assignments, because not all applications will be scored by everyone. That would take a really long time. So we're gonna randomize it so that each application is scored by at least 3 commissioners. And so you'll be assigned to certain numbers that are associated with that number of the application.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Conkle. That was really.
That was a great idea too. Thank you
I
so
would
much.
love to have done that before scoring all these grants.
Yes, me too.
So, that was fantastic. Tia,
Yes.
November, December commission meeting.
Yes, so the November meeting falls on Thanksgiving, and so we're not going to be holding it then. And we also don't want to hold one in late December, of course. So typically we combine the November and December one and choose a new date that works with everyone's calendars. I personally have a couple proposals, and that would be either the November 21st or December 5th, but absolutely open to other dates as well.
21st works good, works well.
So if we did November 21st, we would do no December meeting. Is that correct?
Correct, unless we have to do something for the regional plan.
Did we add time to it last year?
To make comments first.
You talked about adding time to it last year, like making it a 3-hour meeting or something. Remember when we talked about that? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it ended up working just fine, honestly, the way we hit time, and even we're under me.
And we were concerned because we had a lot of applications, but as it turned out, like the way the scoring worked out, it was pretty clear the ones that rose to the top and the ones that got low scores. And then there were only a few that were kind of borderline or that had big discrepancies that we had to talk about. So I think.
Can I make an abstract suggestion at this point too, that perhaps sometime in, bless you, sometime in January, February, that we review the applications again, not the applications themselves, but the application wording. As we're going through this today, reading through some of this wording, I thought, wonder they didn't do anything very well.
Did we have a working group do that?
We did that, oh, I don't know, we talked about this, the connection to underserved communities, but we didn't talk about how the words come, like an innovation.
And yeah, I know Amy brought that up too. It's just, it's harder to think about it further from it.
That's what I was
So
thinking
as you're
earlier.
going through it, please also take a separate note of things that you think should be changed for next year that you can do as well.
I'm good with either of those dates.
Okay, does anyone have any conflicts with the 21st?
No.
I used ink on mine.
It's like already in my calendar from you for the 21st. Did you just do that?
Yeah, because it's
That's the third.
Thursday.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to move the,
It's Thanksgiving's the 28th.
isn't that's the date the November commission meeting would be on, isn't it? Oh, no, okay.
No.
But it's,
I
Thanksgiving.
always thought we met every third Thursday. No wonder I'm always late. Confused.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to move the November commission meeting to Thursday, November 21st.
Second.
And Tia will, she always does. She won't let us forget.
It's literally already in my calendar. She already.
Thank you, Tia.
You can.
It's on Halloween for October.
Oh. The fourth Thursday, is that?
Oh, fourth Thursday. Okay, that's the fifth Thursday.
What else?
That's what I say. You're gonna be like all the meetings.
Costumes.
We'll race for first.
There you go.
All right, let's move on to wrapping things up. To and from, does anybody have any announcements or anything they'd like to share for the record? Any future agenda item requests?
I have one.
Yes.
That I thought of. Talking about hopefully it's intersectional enough, like the public health and sustainability of the rail line. and just like the health concerns for citizens. So. And I can bring some or send some materials that I've read that talk about health concerns. So. Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Something because this is, I'm not sure if it's something that's already been talked about, but I think it would be interesting to talk about the Pinyon Plain Mine.
What?
The what?
Pinyon Plain Mine, it's a uranium mine on the native, on the Navajo Nation.
It's been,
I thought they shut that down.
There's still like a lot of
still trying to get it
possible deliberation over what's gonna happen.
1892 or 1872 mining laws, something stupid like that. I'm interested in what California's doing with the.
Okay, any other future agenda item requests? Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Can I get a motion to?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
She looked right at me when she said that.
Great meeting, really nice to meet you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Very nice to meet you.
Cameron and Elijah. Are you?
Are you gonna apply for a grant?
Well, that's a good imbalance to have, I would say.
Throwing after.
Except that the mail was.
Why in charge of your?
No, I actually.
Interesting.